All right, Congressman Ron Paul, you know he's no friend of the Federal Reserve. Just look at the title of his best-selling book, End the Fed. In it, he blames the Fed for the current economic troubles and calls for auditing the financial body. Now, Paul is making a push to control the House committee that oversees the Fed. That can't be welcome news for Ben Bernanke and company, and even some within Paul's own party, including incoming Speaker John Boehner. They are leery of the idea. Let's find out what our Friday regulars and CNBC contributors think about a Ron Paul-led Financial Services Committee. Tony Fratto is the managing director with Hamilton Place Strategies. He's also the former White House deputy press secretary under President George Bush. And Greg Valliere is the chief political strategist with the Potomac Research Group. Guys, good to see you. I so much want to start with substance, but can we start with process first? I'm sorry. Greg Valliere, is he really going to get in charge of the committee that is in control of the Fed?
Probably. It had been, Michelle, an obscure committee, but he'll probably take the chairmanship. And ironically, it's worrying a lot of Republicans. As you say, even John Boehner worries. I mean, the last thing you want to do is really provoke the Fed. It's an old adage in our industry, don't fight the Fed. But we're going to get a guy in that committee who's going to fight the Fed.
Tony, are you hearing the same thing? Does it look like Ron Paul is going to be in charge of the institution that he would like to eliminate?
Well, in charge of it is kind of misleading. It's not a full committee. It's a subcommittee of the House Financial Services Committee. So it's a subcommittee on domestic monetary policy, and there's not a whole lot of power there. You know, we have to remember a lot of the ideas that Ron Paul is espousing will be tough to get out of that subcommittee, let alone the full committee, let alone through Congress. So that's not the concern, but he will certainly try to use the Fed as his personal punching bag for the next couple of years if he is chairman.
Well, I'm going to be very jealous of Steve Leisman and covet his job, because it's going to be a lot of fun to see Ron Paul beat these guys up. But Greg Valliere, even when Ben Bernanke's in front of him right now, it's fireworks already.
Yeah, but you know, in our industry, we talk about headline risk to stocks. There could be headline risk to the Fed, but is there really a legislative risk? Could you really get 60 votes in the Senate for anything to curb the Fed's independence? I don't think you can get 60 votes in the Senate in favor of Mother's Day in the next 2 years. So, you know, I don't see any legislation coming out of this, but it will be an intimidating factor.
Tony,
it may be fun to watch, Maria, but I don't know how healthy it is, for the operation of the Fed.
Tony, as you know, this is not a book plug, I promise, guys, and to the audience, but I have a book out, right? And what shocked me when I put out this book, which is about how to make government smaller, I can't tell you how much hate mail I got, Tony, because I did not hate the Fed in the book. The book is all about fiscal policy, and they were just livid that I did not attack the Fed, hate the Fed, and monetary policy. There is a subsector of society out there that's right along with Ron Paul and very, very angry about the Federal Reserve. Low interest rates, they think it hurts seniors, they think it's destroying banking.
Oh,
yeah, look, it's out there. You're absolutely right, Marie. It's out there, and it's very powerful and strong. And it's not a new strain, by the way, in the U.S. economy. Talk about we've come full circle. About 100 years ago, Williams Jennings Bryan was out there, beating up the Fed and Eastern moneyed interests, and don't crucify mankind on a cross of gold. Now we have a populist, Republican strain out there, an independent strain out there, who want to return to the gold standard. It is very strong and loud, and I'm sure I'll get some of it because I'm a defender of the Fed. I'll get some of that hate mail today, too.
Michelle, real quick point I'd like to throw in, and that is even though there's not going to be any legislation curbing the Fed, I think they'll stop buying assets in June, as they promised, and I think one of the reasons why, they would never admit it, but one of the reasons why would be fear of even more political criticism if they went to a QE3.
Yeah, I don't think so,
That's a very good point, Tony. If they were not allowed to implement policy as they see it, I mean, would their independence be compromised?
No, look, I think Ben Bernanke, I give him a lot of credit for the work he's done, and I do not believe that Ben Bernanke is responding to political forces. I think sometimes there's some weakness in that he is not responding to political forces, and I don't believe he will make monetary policy decisions based on popularity. Now, that doesn't mean that this kind of criticism and the political risk and the way people like chairman of a subcommittee can hammer the Fed and put pressure on the Fed won't alter the perception of the Fed, and I think that is very, very dangerous in terms of the way the markets and foreign governments look at the operation of the Fed.
All righty, gentlemen, thank you so much. Tony Fratto and Greg Valliere.